Hi everyone, this is Sean Ismail from the Cloud Ranger, and this is the Microsoft Azure training. Today's session is about Azure Accounts, subscriptions, and admin roles. I was a little hesitant creating today's session material or content because, as you recall, in my last session, I mentioned that today we are going to have a hands-on demo. What I was not sure of is that should I have a demo first or should I have the demo a little bit later after I have talked about what we are going to do and discuss some of the terms that Microsoft Azure uses. I have decided to have the demo a little bit later because I want you to understand what we are trying to do, because some of you might be attempting the 7533 certification exam, which is implementing Microsoft Azure infrastructure solutions, and this is definitely required for that. And not only that, my goal is to have a real world perspective given in this session so you understand not only what we are doing, but why we are doing that, so you can use this for yourself or your organization. Okay, so let's get it started in finding out what we are going in and doing in this session. So the session agenda starts with the Microsoft accounts and organizational accounts. We're going to talk about what they are. We're going to talk about Azure accounts, Azure subscriptions, and what they are. We're going to talk about, lastly, for the session, the different administrative roles that are there in Azure, which is the account administrator role, service administrator, and co-administrator role. And of course, the final agenda for our session today is actually to have that demo where we sign up for a trial, free trial subscription for Azure, where you can actually go and look at all the cloud services that are provided. Okay, so let's get started. As far as Microsoft is concerned, there are two types of accounts. The first account is the Microsoft account, and most of you are already familiar with this account because if you have an Hotmail or Outlook or Live account or Live emails, you already have a Microsoft account. And you probably already know this, that Microsoft account can be used for various Microsoft services. If you have gone to TechNet, you have gone into your certifications, you'll see that this is the same account that's used everywhere. And this is no different when it comes to Windows Azure. You can use one of these accounts called Microsoft account for creating an Azure account. For our example here, we are going to use Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com today to actually provide you the demo of signing up. The next account that Microsoft talks about is an organizational account. This is one of the accounts which probably is at your domain.com. For example, I have Sean at cloudranger.net email, so this can be an organizational account which we can use. When I say which we can use, what I mean here is that you'll be using one of these accounts to actually sign up for something called as Azure Account to actually get started with Microsoft Azure. And there are specific reasons these two accounts are allowed, or Microsoft makes a distinction between these two accounts when you sign up for your Azure account. So what is an Azure account? Well, the way I look at it is Azure account is basically a mapping between your Microsoft account to access Microsoft Azure or resources. So what you do is you create an Azure account at the Azure Account Center, and the URL for that is below there. And what happens in the back end is that Microsoft provides you that service through your Microsoft account, which is no different from what Microsoft has been doing in the past to provide their other services. And once this account is created, what it basically will do is it will create the umbrella under which Azure subscriptions will reside. So to consume Azure services, you have to have a subscription. And this subscription is only activated in an Azure account or under an Azure account umbrella altogether if you have a multiple subscription. And that's what I mean by saying that there may be multiple Azure subscriptions under one Azure account. And we will discuss in the next slide that the reasons you could have multiple subscriptions under one account. The Azure account also determines how your Azure usage is reported. And this has probably more to do with the subscription than the Azure account itself. But Azure Account Center is where you would actually go to see how much of usage or consumptions of resources you have had. And this is important to know, and we'll get into this later, is that Azure Account is the place where an account administrator is also assigned. So moving into Azure Subscriptions, what is a subscription and what can it really do? Well, a subscription organizes how your cloud services are accessed. So like we mentioned in our previous session that there are multiple cloud services. You need to have a subscription to actually access these cloud services. You cannot just go and access them without a subscription or without some sort of an entity under which all these reside. The subscription also controls how your resource usage is reported, billed, and paid for. And this is probably linked with the next point, which is subscriptions can be set up for separate billing and payment. So I'm going to combine these two together for you. So under an Azure account, you can have a single subscription or multiple subscriptions. And like we said, each subscription will be used to access cloud services. All the subscriptions will have the same cloud services. There's no distinction there. However, what is different is that each subscription is billed and paid for or can be paid for separately. How's this advantageous for you? Well, if you are an individual, this probably will not make too much of a sense because what we are going to do today is sign up for Azure account or Azure services as an individual, and we will have only one subscription, which is the trial subscription. And for all our purposes, that's fine. But if you're an organization, you could have multiple subscriptions. For example, you have an IT department and you have like an HR department and accounting, finance, and so on. So think of it this way, that why would you need various subscriptions for everyone? So IT has their own agenda, their own projects, their own works, and whatever they do. And so does HR and accounting and financing. So how do you keep track of which department consumed what and who is going to pay for what? Because separate, depending on your organization, of course, there's a separate budget for these units, and they do their own things. So you might have like 10 virtual machines for IT, maybe 2 for financing, and how it will work is that you can have separate subscriptions for them so you can see their usage of only what they did. So if IT had 10 virtual machines, they will be billed for, and their resource usage would show that there are about 10 virtual machines that they have been utilizing, and that's what they have to pay. So it sort of helps you to actually report usage and bill them for. So you can technically take the bill for the marketing department's subscription and be like, hey, this is how much you have utilized this month, and this is how much you got to pay this month. And like I said, it actually makes more sense in an organizational point of view. For my personal account, I actually do have more than one subscription. I have one, for example, for my development work, another one where I'll just go and try out all the Azure services. End of the day, I'm the only one who's paying for both the subscriptions, but I know this month I have spent so much for development work and so much I have spent for trying out various Azure resources. And you have to understand that Azure is an utility-based model. So all cloud services belong to a subscription to just keep a tab on how your cloud services are utilized. And since it's utility-based, you are sort of you are keeping a tab on how your utilities are being consumed and how much you're paying for it. This analogy is actually similar to the analogy of your, let's say, your electricity at home or at your business. Every month is a different bill. And the reason behind that is it's how much have you consumed this month, and based on that there's a rate, and that's how much you pay for at the end of the month. And since Azure is utility-based model, this is essentially what we do as well. If you have two virtual machines under a subscription, then you are going to pay differently than another subscription which was running 24/7 about 10 virtual machines. So it's all about utilizations, consumptions, and that's why all these cloud services belong to a subscription, so they can be reported as well as billed individually. It's basically a line item on a bill. Okay, so the last thing you have to understand, it's very important mostly for developers actually, is that every subscription will have an ID. And the reason behind that is if you look at the points we just went over, these subscriptions will need to be tracked very well. So as far as Microsoft is concerned, it gives you a subscription ID to understand what you have been doing. And this is important for developers, like I mentioned, was because there are several things you can develop on cloud apps, for example, where you might have to say this cloud app is associated with this subscription, so all the resource utilizations for that app will be reported and billed under that subscription. And that's why it's important to know. Okay, so moving on now to Azure accounts. We'll talk about how to create an Azure account. So the way this is created is that you go to the Azure Account Center and you create it from there. And that's the URL, account.windowsazure.com. And to create an Azure account, like we mentioned before, that you will need a Microsoft account. Well, I also did mention that you can use your organizational account, but for this purpose, just remember that we need a Microsoft account to sign up, and there is a very good reason why we need to do that. And next, what we need to remember is that the person who creates the Azure account will become the account administrator. We will go over the account administrator in the roles slides. But it's important to remember that the first person, so basically Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com, whoever owns that, will become the account administrator for the Azure account. And of course, when you create an Azure account, you do not have access to any services. Like we mentioned in subscriptions, the subscriptions are where you actually have access to all the services. So once you create the Azure account, you will need a subscription to be activated to actually do anything in Azure, because that's where all the services are, and that's how you consume that. And that's how you create your Azure account, and we will be going through a demo for this when we are doing the demonstrations for everything else. So let's get into Azure Administrator role. What can Account Administrator do? So the person who creates the account is basically the Account Administrator. So because of this reason, every Azure account can only have one Account Administrator, which is the person who signs up for the Azure account. The account administrator is authorized to access the account center, which is a no-brainer because this is the person who's creating the Azure account, so he or she is the person who can access the account center. Account administrator is also the person who can create subscriptions, cancel subscriptions, and change billing. This is important actually, because like we mentioned, you need a subscription to access resources. So the person who is creating the Azure account obviously is trying to create a place where the services can be accessed. So this administrator has the authorizations to actually create subscriptions and cancel subscriptions. And obviously, since subscriptions are involved here, the billing information and things like that are also something the account administrator can change. The next thing is that account administrator also can change service administrator. We will get into what a service administrator is in the next slide, but it's important to remember that only account administrators can do that. Now, this was the most confusing part when I was trying to figure out what account administrator can do. An account administrator does not have any other access to Azure services. So what have we done so far? We have a Microsoft account. We have used that to create an Azure account. And then we have activated or added a subscription. However, the account administrator has done all this so far, but the account administrator actually does not have an access to the subscription itself. That means the account administrator cannot actually go and start spinning up VMs or creating applications and doing anything Azure related under a subscription. And this is why we have something called a service administrator. So every subscription will have a service administrator. And the reason behind this is exactly because an account administrator cannot obviously access a subscription, so you need somebody to get into a subscription to actually start doing things. So every subscription will have a service administrator. You can only have one service administrator per subscriptions. It's not per account, per subscription. So under your Microsoft account, if you have about, one Azure account and you have multiple subscriptions in there, you could have only one account administrator, but have one subscription administrator per subscription. This sounds a little confusing because it's a one-to-many relationship. So one Azure account will have multiple subscriptions. You only can have one account administrator, but every subscription can have its own administrator. It can be a little confusing, but it really doesn't have to be once we actually go through the demo, and you'll see how this all fits in. And like I mentioned, the service administrator has access to the subscription, and the way you access subscriptions is through Azure Management Portal, which we are not going to get into in this session, but we will provide a demo on the Azure Management Portal and how a service administrator can access that. So the next thing is, you might be wondering, so we created an Azure account, and this person does not have access to a subscription. So how does this person actually create a subscription and go in there and do anything? So Microsoft thought about it, and what they said is, okay, let's do this. It's a matter of roles. So what we will do is give the account administrator the default service administrator role in a subscription when it's created. So an account admin does not have access, but a service administrator does. So let's make this account administrator a service administrator, and he or she will have access to the subscription. That's the only thing that's going on here. The thing about account administrators was that they create the subscription. So that means that they also assign the service administrators. So that means that account administrators are the only people who can actually change service administrator of a subscription. So if we have not got confused so far, we have a Microsoft account. We created an Azure account. Azure account has an account administrator. Account administrator creates a subscription. And in the subscription, we have a service administrator. So that's what we have gone through so far. The next thing is a co-administrator. So what does a co-administrator do? A co-administrator is pretty much same like a service administrator, except that you can have 200 co-administrators per subscription. Now, you have to remember something. When we are talking about these roles, we are not talking about people who can access your services. We know for a fact that if you are going to create a virtual machine or a web app, anybody can access that if you have given them the permissions, or if it's a public application or a server that's a web server or FTP server, whatever. The roles that we are talking about here are basically the roles which provide access to the administrators to go in Azure and do something. So, for example, based on these roles, a co-administrator will be able to go in and do certain things in the Azure Management Portal. For example, creating a VM or creating a network or creating a VPN connection, things like that. And this is more of management of Azure rather than consuming services. So you can have up to 200 co-administrator per Azure subscription because you may have that many IT personnel in your organization, depending on how large you are, who needs to go and do their work. And that's what they do. So for our purposes here, a co-administrator is similar to a service administrator, except there are a few differences. Well, the first thing is that they are like service administrators, so they pretty much can do a lot of things they do. But the next thing is they cannot delete service administrators because if you recall, service administrators do a lot of things because account administrators cannot do that. So that's why the service administrators are created and they do all of that. And you do not want every single administrator to go and do what service administrators do. So this is why you have co-administrators who do not have full access to the subscription. So for example, they cannot go and see the billing. They cannot go and see what are the other subscriptions that are there. They are only limited to their subscription and they can do various things on the cloud resources for their subscription and not the other subscriptions. And the other thing is, I was a little hesitant to put this here, but this is important for exam perspective, is that your co-administrators cannot change associations of subscriptions to Azure directories that your service administrators can. We'll definitely get into details on what Azure directories are, but for now, remember that every subscription could be associated with Azure directories, and co-administrators are definitely not allowed to do that. And this is important when we talk about the directory. Okay, so we have understood Microsoft accounts, organizational accounts. We have understood Azure accounts. We have understood how subscriptions are part of Azure accounts. We have discussed about account administrators, who creates the account. We have talked about service administrators who are there on each subscription to manage the subscription. And we have talked about co-administrators. So when we talked about all this stuff right now, this was done by a Microsoft account. And for our demo, we will be showing that using a Microsoft account. But if you recall, I talked about organizational accounts. So what did organizational accounts do? So Microsoft has a separate sign up for organizations when it comes to Windows Azure. And what you do there is that you do not sign up for Windows Azure and activate a subscription with your Microsoft account, but you will actually do that with your organizational account. And there are very good reasons for doing so. And we'll get into a little bit of details with that when we get into demo. And I'll show you how both are done, how you can actually create or not create, you can subscribe or you can sign up for Windows Azure using your personal account. And I'll also show you the portal where you go and you can actually do that for an organization. And the URL for that is account.windowsazure.com/organization. And you can view what we do there or what is a little different there. Okay, so having said that, I'm pretty sure, at least from my opinion, this is probably one of the most boring sessions, to be honest, and it's unnecessarily complicated, but it's one of those necessary evils that you need to know both for your exams and if you are going to do this in real life. For our purpose, the demonstration, you will see this is actually very, very simple. You might have already seen going to Azure website that Microsoft has this big button you click and start getting into signing up for this trial. Some of you already might have done this, or some of you might want to do this right now when we do the demo, and it will look all very simple. But this theory behind it is important to understand and to keep everything together once we get into more detailed sessions where we'll actually start using several Windows Azure services. Having said that, let's actually have a demo of signing up for an Azure trial subscription. What we are going to do is use the account we talked about for this blog, which is our Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com, and we will sign up for an Azure trial subscription. If you haven't already signed up for Windows Azure, this is probably a good time to use your Microsoft account to follow through this session and the demo and pause it whenever it's necessary and create one. Because in the subsequent sessions, what we are going to do is pretty much use this account to do everything. So it will be important that this is done before we move into next sessions and get into other resource consumptions. The other thing is you have to remember is there are limitations on this trial subscription. So you get about $220 to spend in, I think, 30 days, and that amount at that time frame changes. So the easiest way to do this is just to create a Microsoft account. It doesn't have to be a personal one. You can create a new one just for the purpose of this training, and you can get that $220 for free and use that within 30 days. I believe that's what the trial subscription is now for. So you can start fresh and do everything and not run out of your funds in between all these sessions. Of course, after the trial, if you want, you can go through several other channels. For example, you can go for a pay-as-you-go service, or you can actually sign up for a 6-month or a yearly with Microsoft and pay certain rates based on how much you consume resources. Okay, so I'm going to just set my bearings here and get ready for the demo, and I'll come back when I actually have my Explorer up and running. Okay, so I'm at my browser right now, and what we are going to do is have a demonstration, a bunch of stuff we have talked about in this session, and then go through a demonstration of a trial subscription sign up. So the first thing I want to do is actually take you to Windows Account Center to actually go and see what the Account Center was all about and how you sign up from there if you want to. So the URL for that was HTTPS, and it was account. It's easy to remember actually. .windowsazure.com. Okay, so if you come over here, you can see that it actually welcomes you to Windows Azure, and to click here to get started. So this is the Windows Account Center where you can sign up for the Azure account. I'm not so sure how many of you have actually seen this. If you are just getting with Azure, what you might be more familiar with is this page, which is azure.microsoft.com. This is something you might be more familiar with because this is what you see from when you just go to Windows, type Windows Azure on the search engines, and you can see all this try for free, learn more, and free trial, and all this show up. But for our purposes, since I talked about the Windows account, I want to show you that they're essentially the same thing when you're getting started. So if you click here, right now, as you can see, I'm not signed in. So if you click here to get started, it will basically ask you to sign in to your Microsoft account. So for our purposes, it's Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com. Then my password, and we're going to sign in. As you can see, when we signed in to our Azure account page, basically it's telling that you do not have any subscription. And this is what I was talking about, is that you can create an Azure account, but you will have to go and also activate subscriptions under there to actually do that. And if you look at this account center, you can see it's actually giving you an option to sign up for trial. If you look at the status bar over here, And you can see it's a sign up offer, Microsoft Azure 0044P. This is no different from going to your azure.microsoft.com and going and creating try for free. You will notice that when you click on try now, it actually sort of goes to the same URL. So it doesn't matter if you go from there or here. Sorry, got a little distracted there. Somebody came in. So looking at this registration here, you can see that it's asking for some of your personal information. This should be pretty straightforward for the free trial sign up. The thing you have to notice here is that there is a mobile verification. And what happens is that you put your mobile number here and click on send text message, and Microsoft sends a code that you need to put here to actually verify that you say who you are, and that's your number. And the reason that's required, and it says over here, is basically they try to verify that it's you, and that's the number they want to contact you at for everything. So without these verifications, you can actually see that the sign up over here doesn't enable. And the reason behind that is that they want that verification to take place before you do that. So what I was telling you over here is that it doesn't matter. So let's sign out from here. It doesn't matter you go from the account center or you go from the Azure, Microsoft Azure page, you'll always be at the same spot. And signing up from here or signing up from the azure.microsoft.com is essentially the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through a sign up. So we'll click over here, and you can see right now they're giving you $220. And if you go to the FAQs here, they basically tell you all these things that, how long it's there for, how you cancel it, and how much do you have to pay, and what happens after 30 days, stuff like those. So let's go back over here and click on try it now. And it's obviously looking for that information, which I'm going to put in again. So that will be cloudrangerblog@hotmail.com. And I'm going to put in the password. Let's go ahead and sign in. And it's going to bring me to the Windows Azure sign up. It's the same form we have just seen. And I'm going to put all this information, and since this is going to be personal information, I'm going to pause the video while I do all of that, and I'll come back in between when it prompts me for something else. So I just resumed the recording here to show you what was going on here, is that when I put in my mobile number here and clicked on send text message, it actually sent me a code. So I'm going to verify that code right now so Microsoft knows it's me, and I'll be right back after the verification. Okay, so the verification has been completed, and this is interesting. You'll notice that this payment information just showed up. So the mobile verification was complete, and since it was completed, now the payment information comes in, and this is I wouldn't call it tricky, but this is the part where Microsoft wants to know that you are who you are and you're serious about this. They're not going to, you have to put in a credit card number here. It has to be a valid information for the trial. But I wouldn't say be worried about this, but you don't have to worry about it because Microsoft for this trial subscription is not going to do something to trick you. For example, it's not going to tell you that after 30 days, if you do not cancel, we are going to charge you. It's not going to do anything like, take this credit card information and put you on a different subscription. Your trial will end after 30 days or when you have finished that $220. But if you put this credit card number, It's not a big deal. It's going to Microsoft. They'll take care of it. They're not going to charge you for anything you do not want to, but they will have this information on your file. So in case if you want to go for end of subscription, they know which credit card to go to. And I assume that they're giving you a credit for $220, which is already going to be posted on the account. It's not like they're going to charge you and debit your account for this information or this amount. It's just that they need this to be on their file, and which is okay because they're giving me $220 for free. And Microsoft already has my credit card number, so I wouldn't bother too much with this. But this is something you do need to put in to proceed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that information and click on sign up because this is personal information. Obviously, I don't want to put it over the internet. And once that's done, I'll be right back. Awesome. So it took about 40 to 50 seconds after putting in the credit card information and click on sign up. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This is the Azure Account Center. As you can see right now, the free trial, this is the subscription that's part of that we activated, and it's pending right now. And as you can see, it says, please wait while we set up the subscription. So a lot of things are going on in the background right now as the subscription is being set up. It takes a little while, so I'm going to pause the video over here and I'll come back once this subscription has been set up. But for all purposes for this session, you have to remember that this is the Account Center. Account Center is where you see all your subscriptions. So the subscription you are looking at right now is called free trial. If you had multiple subscriptions, like I mentioned before, like you had one for IT, one for accounting, and one for marketing, they would all be here. And when you click on that, then you'll be able to see the utilization, resource utilization, the bill, how much they're being charged so far right now. You'll see all that information. But for now, the subscription is being set up in the Account Center. And if you follow those slides, you'll also remember Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com. This is right now the user who signed up for the Azure account. So this is also the account administrator. And as we know, account administrator is the only person who has access to the account center. And that's why this person can actually look at this information that we are looking at right now. Okay, so I'll be right back once everything is set up here. Awesome. So it looks like the subscription got set up. There's still some billing for the subscription that's being set up right now. So this is what we were trying to get to this entire session. We have the account, Azure account set up. We are in Azure account logged in right now. Our subscription, which is the trial subscription, has been set up. There's a bunch of information in this account center that you can, if you recall from the slides, this is where you can actually see all the information about your subscription. So right now, you're billed for nothing. This is the current bill period. So this is what we are doing today, 30th, and it's going for approximately 30 days. As you recall, the account administrator for this Azure account is cloudrangerblog at hotmail.com. And the reason because of this is that this is the person who actually signed up. So this person automatically becomes the account administrator. This is the other thing we have talked about. It's an alphanumeric number. This is the subscription ID that's unique to this subscription. So Microsoft keeps a tab on this one. And for all purposes, this is the subscription ID associated with the free trial subscription that you need to see. So if you have multiple subscriptions here, there will be a different subscription ID for each subscription. And the status over here says pending, and the reason behind that is because it's trying to get the billing set up for the subscription. The other thing I want you to show you here is that if you wanted to cancel a subscription for whatever reason, you'd click on this cancel subscription. So you don't want to obviously click that right now and cancel your free trial, but this is where you would have to cancel a subscription. So if you cancel a subscription, that subscription still stays in your Azure account. And what I have noticed is they will show you the subscription was there and it was canceled, but they really never remove it from your Azure account. You'll actually have to call Microsoft support to remove that information if you want the Azure account not to get too cluttered. So right now, we are in Azure Account, and we will actually go into the portal, and I will show you how that is done by clicking over here. The portal actually starts loading, and this is what the management portal is for Windows Azure. And this is the URL that you have to remember for this is manage.windowsazure.com. And as you can see, it's trying to give us a tour here to show what is where. We will go through a separate session to actually introduce this entire portal to you. So I'm not going to go into too much details on how this portal looks, except a couple of things. So from now on, if you want to log into your Windows Azure portal, you basically come to manage.windowsazure.com. You don't have to go to your account center. The only reason you went to the account center was actually to create an account and create a subscription. And the other reason you would go to the account is actually to check your billing information. There is no billing information on resource utilization in a subscription. That all has to happen from account. And the way you go back to that place where we came from would be you click over here and you do view my bill, and you would be able to see that what happens is it actually takes you back to the account center for that subscription and show you what's going on. So we'll just wait here for a bit for this thing to load. And once that's loaded, you can see this is your subscription under that account, and your free trial expires in 29 days. It just basically says that. And if you click on the subscription, you'll be able to see the details, essentially where we came from earlier, because we were first in Azure Account and then we went to the management portal. So now you can see the billing has been set up. So they're saying they have 29 days left. You have $220 of credit. This is where they would actually show your utilization of all your resources, and they would bill it. You'd see itemized items over here. Right now, you're not being charged for anything, and you can see that the state has become active. This was all the information we have looked into, but now they have added other information after the billing was set. This is where you'd see all your subscriptions, obviously, because we are now on the Windows Azure Account Center. So let's get out of there, and this is the management portal. So if you remember, the only person who could actually get into the management portal was the service administrator. We know the account administrator was Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com. I just want to show you that the reason the Cloud Ranger blog account was able to log into this was because when the first subscription is created, by default, the account administrator is given access as a service administrator. And we can see this by coming to administrators here. And you can see the Cloud Ranger blog was actually also given the service administrator role. And this is the only reason we were able to get into this portal. So at this point, I do not want to go further with about this portal and what is where. We'll have an entire separate section dedicated on going through each item in this portal and showing you what can be done from here. And so we'll dedicate a different session for that. But for all purposes, this is what the management portal is for Windows Azure. So if anybody tells you to log into the management portal, this is where you come, manage.windowsazure.com. So I'll show that to you actually by signing out from here. And what we are going to do is actually get into the management portal after this signs out. So let's wait for that sign out to have completed. Let's go back, for example, to msn.com. So let's do a manage.windowsazure.com. This is the portal. So once you have signed up and everything, from now on, this is the URL you are going to go to. And as you can see, it remembered me. So it's Cloud Ranger blog at hotmail.com. You click on that, and it's basically going to redirect you to log in to Windows Azure. So you put in your password, and the Azure site loads up, and you are basically in the portal at this point. And you really do not have to go to Account Center every time to log into the portal, because the only time now you'll be going there is when you want to check your bill. So I hope this was informative so far. The only thing about the trial is you have to make sure that when you sign up the trial subscription, you have a credit card handy. And once your credit and your 30 days expire, you basically will see your subscriptions will tell you that it has expired, and it will give you some options to carry on. If you want at that point to get another trial, obviously you cannot use the same account, so you'll have to make a separate Microsoft account and do that at that point. So that concludes the demo for the portal and sign up for a free trial subscription. I just want to go through one last thing, which was that organizational sign up, which I mentioned. How do you sign up for an organizational account? You could do what we did right now, or Microsoft prefers that you actually go to this location and sign up. There's a subtle difference in how you do that. So when you come to this organization sign up, you'll see that it's almost similar like the other one, but now you are actually creating an account with your organization's info. So if I do sean@cloudranger.net, you will see that it actually tries to give you a domain name, seanismail.onmicrosoft.com, but that will change once I put this information. So my company name is Cloud Ranger, and you can see that it is actually trying to look for or create the domain name or the tenant as cloudranger.onmicrosoft.com, and we'll get into this tenant later. I'll show you what it means by that name, and your tenants will check availability, and you can see that it's available. So it's actually going to let me sign up similar way where we put all our information, and we sent that text message, and we signed up for the Azure account. There are subtle differences, like I mentioned. So in this sign up, you see that it's actually asking you for a new user ID because you are signing up as this account. So this is the Azure Account Administrator once you have signed up, but they also want a service administrator, so you can use Sean or you can use Bob or whoever, and this will be the service administrator who will be able to log into the subscriptions. And basically after that, everything else is the same, and we are not going to go through one of these processes, but that's how you do it, and that's the only difference Microsoft wants you to follow when you actually want to create an account for an organization. Besides that, everything else is the same. We have organizations who have used someone's regular Hotmail or Live ID account and have done this before. It works perfectly fine as far as the services are concerned. There's no difference between the services you will get by signing up as an organization versus the signing up you'll do in a free trial account. So everything should be similar except for subtle differences, which are basically for the directory services, or which are for how and which accounts are used to access this. When we go through directory services, we'll actually go through the demo on the difference that is there. But for all purposes, all of the services are similar. So there's nothing new over here to see. Okay, so we'll go back to our slide to conclude this session. Okay, so we are back on our slides here. And this was the demo for signing up for an Azure trial subscription. It went a little bit longer, but I hope I was able to convey the necessary steps for you to actually sign up for a trial subscription. It's important that at this point you have this trial subscription set up, because from the next session we are going to get into the portal. We're going to look into the portal and find out what does what. At the same time, we are going to also start working on Windows Azure and start consuming the services. So if you do not have a trial subscription up, it's going to be very hard to follow. I suggest that if you have not actually gone through the trial subscription, you actually pause and rewind a little bit of this video and actually go through a trial subscription sign up and get one ready. So that will get you prepared for the upcoming sessions for sure. Because once we are going to provide this demo, it will be expected that you actually go through on your portal and go through similar steps to follow through. From the next session, when I'm going to actually start showing you around the portal, the next sessions are going to be a little bit more heavy on demo. We are not going to have this many slides up for you to consume and go through the demo, because from now on, I want to show you what's going on rather than just teaching you what's there. There will be some slides, but it's going to be minimal. Like I promised, everything over here is going to be hands-on. And at the same time, if there are certain information that you need to get, I'll try to put it under the description of the video or on my site. There might be some PDFs for you to download and look into and study for the exam. It depends on if there are any notes that are required. But for the most part, it will be very hands-on for you to understand what's going on. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of this session. And as usual, the training site URL is www.cloudranger.net/Azure-training. We are on YouTube at Cloud Ranger Network, on Twitter at Cloud Ranger Blog. We are on Google+, as well as you can email me directly if you have any questions and comments or you need some help at sean@cloudranger.net. As I have mentioned before, the best way to get to me is through comments, because if you have any questions, chances are that somebody else might have that same question and they might be able to read and get through. And I'll definitely appreciate some comments on the training sessions themselves, just to understand if they're being helpful. Like I mentioned in my last session, this is the first time I'm doing something like this, so I'm learning a lot as I'm going through. I'm feeling that there needs to be some editing done at certain places, and I'm struggling a little bit with that, but I'm assuming as we get into the sessions deeper, things will get a little better. I'm working much better on the mic right now, and still, there are challenges and there's a learning curve, and I'm trying to just ensure for now that you are understanding everything that's on this session, and we'll just take it from there. All right, thank you for viewing, and do share the video if you like it, and I hope you have learned something out of this today. Thank you.